So my friend and I were talking about how AI chatbots are becoming integrated into our romantic lives. And we're talking about how, especially with the issue of attachment styles, if you're familiar with attachment styles, with attachment styles, it's quite easy to have a chatbot be a mediator within an argument between you and your partner and help you figure out whether you're arguing from a situation where you want to solve a problem or you're attacking each other based on your attachment style. But we're also talking about how you could literally go to a chatbot and talk about the things that are bothering you and figure out how to frame it before you go to a partner. And my friend Hoitse, shout out to Hoitse if you're watching this, was upset. And she was like, listen, I understand why people are doing this sort of rehearsal, but for me, it feels like you're cheating and you're not arguing with me. When you come to me with an argument that you've put through a chatbot, it doesn't feel like you're arguing with me. And I feel like I'm losing out on an important part of our relationship. I agree with her. And after listening to her, she says, arguments are important. And if you have to sanitize it with a chatbot, then it's no longer an argument. It's just a regurgitated version. And then there's also no safety being created in this relationship. And it had me thinking about how the rise of chatbots in communication is changing how we're speaking to each other. And it's bringing up a situation where we're not talking to each other directly, but in a lot of cases, we are just outsourcing communication to AIs. And in extreme cases, we are simply vessels for our personal chatbots output. And this has already been referred to by researchers as AI mediated communication. And so today I wanted to talk about AI mediated communication, how it's showing up in societies right now, what could go wrong, and ideas of what the future will look like. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Garnet and I make content for people curious about the internet and AI. But first order of business before I go into today's topic, I want to thank the 162 people who joined my channel in the past 2 weeks because of the last video I posted. Yeah, welcome. And I hope you get to stick along and grow with me in my journey of making content. So, AI mediated communication is defined as interpersonal communication that is not only mediated by technology, but is optimized, augmented, or even entirely generated by artificial intelligence. And the difference between AI mediated communication and what was previously known as computer mediated communication is that with previous systems, the computers were just a medium to pass along the message, but with AI, it's a totally different scenario. You are optimizing, you're augmenting, you are entirely generating something new with AI. So, AI mediated communication. And so, first off, let's start with where we're at. Where is this type of communication mostly happening? So I'm going to give a few examples. It's definitely not exhaustive. And feel free to let me know in the comments other examples you can think of. But the first place I thought of when I thought of AI mediated communication outside of like romantic relationships is at work, where it's become a thing where you're no longer confident in the message you're sending out to your colleagues. And now you run your messages through AI first before sending it out. You run any type of communications happening at work at this point in time, because I know people are usually nervous about emails and like long messages. For the most part, I assume everything is going through a chatbot before it hits, the group chat or the group email at work. Like we said, with romantic relationships on dating apps, you're no longer sure if the person you're texting is funny or they're using ChatGPT to talk to you. And this is actually there's a term that's already coming out for this. It's called chat phishing, where people feel like you're embellishing how you communicate with a chatbot on the side. And so there's that lack of authenticity when people are communicating. Actually, there's a study that Match.com did, and it found that 60% of people no longer feel that people are authentic on dating apps. They feel like everybody's using a chatbot to talk to people. AI mediated communication goes beyond unidirectional communication. There are also cases where chatbots are just talking to each other. I think the best examples for this are in the job markets right now when in hiring, because recruiters are all using application tracking systems that are stupid and broken and biased. And so the only way to sort of beat the game is to have ChatGPT write you a resume that's completely tailored to whatever job description the recruiter put out there and send it in. So job seekers are not writing the material anymore. They're just letting the AI speak to each other. You pick what JDs put on Workday, and you have ChatGPT craft something around that. And so you have ChatGPT communicating with an ATS system. So the fact that job seekers are now not applying manually, of course, not all job seekers, but a lot of job seekers are not applying manually. They're just using bots to apply to as many jobs as possible. And these bots can also tailor their applications. For me, that's an example of AI is just talking to each other. People using deep fakes for interviews. If you seen the trend where people don't show up for interviews, but they use a deep fake during an interview to overlay over their faces to sort of disguise the fact that they're cheating to the interview. And they're also using tools like Cluely or ChatGPT or Claude to help them answer questions as the interviews are going on. It doesn't even help that you're also being interviewed by an AI bot. So when it comes to job seeking and hiring, there's a lot of AI to AI communication happening there, because the system has literally devalued real communication. I do not blame anyone for this. I blame corporations for this aspect of AI mediated communication, because that's the only thing that gets you ahead in the hiring market. Another example for me is in schools, where you see a lot of students using AI to draft their assignments, and then you have teachers also grading their work with AI. So there's AI to AI communication right there. And I feel like AI mediated communication has become and will become an even bigger thing as we're going on and as more and more people adopt AI, but also because 2025 was declared the year of AI agents. And from the stuff I've read from different like tech billionaires, it feels like they feel like personal AI agents will be able to handle your life for you. And by handling your life, it means taking over even basic communication, as that's something that you do often. I saw a video of Mustafa Suleiman. I think he's from DeepMind, or was from DeepMind. I don't know where he is right now. But he was speaking of this AI mediated future where AI companion helps you navigate tough situations. And I guess these tough situations are conversations. I'll add the clip right here.
I think in 5 years' time, everybody will have their own AI companion, which will know them so intimately and so personally that it will come to live life alongside you. It will see what you see, hear what you hear, understand your context, your preferences, your motivations, and it'll feel like an ever present aid or friend that is there to help you navigate life's big challenges.
I also came across a quote by Eric Schmidt where he says that in the future, there will be little need for person to person conversation. He rationalizes this with the fact that AIs will have accumulated so much knowledge that is superior to human knowledge. So, why should you be the one to do these interactions instead of having your AI agent chat for you? So, basically, that's the future that tech billionaires are dreaming up, one where we are just vessels of communication for robots. And so I'm sure the question then becomes, okay, Garnet, what exactly is wrong with using AI to help you in communicating? Because you could say that, okay, I've used AI to help me talk to um, my landlord and figure out how to navigate a situation we had. And I quoted this housing laws and da 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 da, and he finally gave me what I wanted. I can finally send people like legal notices. I don't need to get a lawyer to do that. I guess there's a lot of benefits towards using AI for some communication. I feel like a lot of neurodivergent people could say that it helps them navigate communication that they never knew how to do before, like the entrance of like personal chatbots. But there's also a lot of downsides to it. I keep coming back to what my friend Hoyte said. When you're rehearsing an argument with AI, you're losing out on a real moment with your partner, but you're also not getting used to what an actual authentic and raw argument looks like with a romantic partner. We're losing these emotional skills. And I think that's the first thing that stands out for me, is that the more we rely on AI chatbots for communication, our emotional skills atrophy. Not just our emotional skills, but generally our communication skills. Because I feel like the point of getting through that first few times that it's nerve wracking to write an email at work is that you become more confident and you don't have to overthink these things. But now, if Gmail wants to complete all your emails, if you want to practice arguments with a chatbot, if you want to outsource how to be charming, then where are you actually building the muscle for yourself? So outsourcing a lot of work that helps us grow as people. And I keep coming back to this New Yorker article that came out earlier in the year. The title was "In 2026, We Are Friction Maxing." And basically, the concept is that we need to get into the practice of doing things that make us uncomfortable, because the vision that tech oligarchs and tech billionaires have for us is one that makes us sort of useless, because we're being told you need an AI chatbot to help you navigate an argument, you need an AI chatbot to finish that email. So are you really capable of anything? What do tech billionaires think of the average person? But yeah, your emotional and communication skills are atrophying when all you're doing is outsourcing this. Another thing I can immediately think of is that the bar to communication keeps rising if you're using AI chatbots. Like, if I'm used to a certain standard of how you speak to me and then suddenly it drops, I'll be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? I think of how Grammarly and autocorrect has become such a standard part of our written communications nowadays, that a typo or misspelling or wrong grammar is seen as an ick in the modern dating world. I feel like AI does the same thing for communication, perhaps even at a higher level. Like, what happens when we wake up one day and all the LLMs are shut down and you still need to send those emails at work? Like, and you can't find it in you to draft an email without like having ChatGPT double check it. I feel like a hypocrite, by the way, when I'm saying this, because I'm guilty of of this one too. But I feel like the standards for communication really go up when we're always using AI and we're not really seeing the humanity of communication. And I think one of my favorite thing that has come out of um, the AI era is people returning to a space where they accept unfinished or unperfect work because it's a sign of human effort rather than just outsourcing it to an AI. I really like that aspect that's coming out right now. Once you start relying on AI, the standards go way up. And can you really keep up with that? But also, do you not want people to see your humanity? An interesting thing for me is, as our standards go up, our empathy also goes low as we're relying on AI for communication. I feel like we also expect people to respond as quickly, because if you're using AI, you expect that they're also using AI to respond, but not everything works that way. I think the most interesting story I came across recently was how cases from the US and the UK, where school head teachers are complaining that parents are inundating them with complaints and um, emails that are entirely AI generated. So it could be a complaint about something small, but they're using AI to draft these notices or communications with teachers, and they're filling them with like legal language, and they're citing laws and bylaws. And so teachers are getting as much as like one teacher in the UK talked about receiving a 58 page complaint that they had to go through. And so teachers are saying that something that used to take even 5 minutes to review now takes 3 to 4 hours to review. And sometimes they also need to call a lawyer in to help them respond. And this is what I'm talking about. As the standards go up, because you're using AI to write a 58-page document, now you think this is literally possible. You expect that teacher to drop everything and respond to you. If you I'm not even sure if you care they're using AI, but the same way you delivered a 58-page complaint is the same way you want an answer quickly. And I think this is where it gets extremely unfair. Like I said before, I feel like with AI mediated communication, I can appreciate people standing up to corporations. I can appreciate people using AIs to figure out their way around the hiring system, or AIs to figure out the way around the customer service system that always gives you a bot. If you use an AI to break it and get you a human speaker, amazing. But then now when we're burdening public servants like teachers, I'm just like, eh. But I guess this is it. This is a sign where we're no longer being empathetic because we're relying and over relying on AI. There's a quote from one teacher who talks about how because people are using AI, the AI generated comments are often lengthy, cite multiple pieces of legislation, and have antagonized and inflamed language, and demand draconian consequences for teachers involved in incidents. And they're also saying that once they respond to these emails, they get another AI generated email back. And one teacher says, there's a quote that stood out for me, and the teacher says, a lot of times it is just going to be a kitchen sink approach. It's going to have anything and everything that AI determined that the district could have possibly violated. So they're talking about how people just pile in whatever legalese the AI assistants are giving them. This definitely is a sign that we're not in community with each other, but it's also heightened by the use of AI. Like we are turning into soulless schools who can't express ourselves, can't write love letters, and we also expect like miracles of other people. And I often say that social media did its best to convince us that the people around us do not care about us as much as the people online with that a shared like niche interest. Like there's an era where when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I always felt like people on the internet understood you more than the people around you. And it was a thing that people used to like espouse or parrot on Twitter a lot, that your online friends know you much more than your real life friends. In a few cases, that was true, but in a lot more cases, I feel like it just alienated us from one another. But AI is going to do much worse because this is an AI. This is a tool that's being personalized exactly to what you like, your temperament, your interests. I feel like that is going to isolate us way more than even um, social media did. And you can see it with the examples of parents and teachers. Like these parents are no longer seeing themselves as part of the same community as teachers, but they're seeing this tool as something that can help them get a one up on teachers rather than just going to them and talking to them about the issue. I feel like AI will isolate us way more than social media did. I keep going back to that quote by Eric Schmidt talking about how in the future we'll have little need for person to person conversation. And that sounds scary, but also useless to me, but also impossible. But why would I want to live in a world where I'm not talking to people? I feel like the best part of my day is when I get home and I'm talking to my friend about what happened at work and I'm gossiping. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And I think that if we're thinking about where we're heading to in the future, we definitely have to figure out how to be comfortable with being messy in our communications with each other. And I am going to enlist the words of one of my faves, Sherry Turkle. This is her book, Alone Together, talking about how technology isolates us from each other. And she has studied how people anthropomorphize robots and chatbots for years. So, by that, I mean how people project emotions and human like qualities onto a chatbot or onto robot. So basically, when you keep talking to a chatbot, you turn it into your friend. And she actually wrote a Substack I found when I was looking at material for this video, talking about what's happening in the chatbot era. And she calls it reclaiming conversation in the AI era. And one paragraph, this paragraph really stood out to me. She says, when you reach out to make common cause with another person, accepting all the ways they're different from you, you increase your capacity for human understanding. That feeling of friction in human exchange is a good thing. It comes from bringing our whole selves to the encounter. When we communicate on screens, we distance ourselves from each other. We lose the ability to put ourselves in place of others and negotiate differences. Intimacy and empathy are compromised, and civil society suffers as well. I hope you note that she also used the word friction, and I talked about that friction maxing article in the New Yorker this year. So maybe the year for 2026 is bringing back friction in our life, but she calls it friction maxing. I don't like the term friction maxing because it just reminds me of that incel side of the internet. And once again, if we're talking about the idea of going back to our real life human selves, why are we using a word borrowed from like incel language? But nonetheless, bringing back friction into our lives, I think it's really important. And I, once again, I feel like a hypocrite saying this because I also need to bring back more friction into my life. Definitely not at work. I don't think I care too much about communication, about updates, but definitely in my personal relationships, just bringing up more of these conversations that perhaps I feel shy or I feel like are a burden to my friends, but no, just striking up that conversation. I feel like we all need to practice more of this feeling of confidence, not only in ourselves but in our immediate circles, because I know the idea is that chatbots never get tired of you. Chatbots don't make you feel ashamed of what you want to share. I think we overthink these things, especially when we haven't tried our friends or the people around us. I think we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. As all these people have said, as Sherry and Catherine have said, we need to be comfortable with discomfort. I think the best thing we can do for ourselves is to just get out of that mentality that social media, sharing something through an anon account on Reddit or talking to a chatbot gets you much more empathy or relatability than actually talking to the people around you. And if the people around you truly can't hold space for you, then maybe you need to find new people. Part of the friction we need to introduce is being more vulnerable with the people around us and actually getting out of the feelings that make us feel like we're isolated and alone, and trying to have these conversations with people around us. And if you've gotten this far, thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, please do subscribe. I have a lot of videos on AI and society. To be fair, I am getting better at these videos. The past ones may not be as decent as these ones, but I guess seeing my growth is also part of joining my journey as a creator in AI and society. But I really do appreciate you sticking around to the end, and I appreciate every single comment you leave. And yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.